Okay, here we go. Welcome to Smudcast number 487. The Squidward Ethnostate is real. Now, if you guys know anything about SpongeBob SquarePants, this kind of rhetoric is outside the bounds of what is probably assumed to be not in the show. This is a show for the family. They don't deal with complex racial issues of what does it mean to have an ethnostate or a ethnic city or a predominantly this or that race in a certain group. So I'm guessing this is already stretching. You're really reaching for what you're going for in a kid's show. But maybe there is some validity. I do know SpongeBob is a smart show. There could be some sort of lens you could use, a political lens, to look at this. I don't know. I'm not crazy. I wouldn't bother with this sort of exercise. I have better things to do with my time. Let's just see who this dude is who wrote this, or who made this, rather. This is Pillar of Garbage. Great name for a YouTube channel, so we know where we're working. This guy is what do you get when you cross analytical approaches to pop culture with a hyperactive imagination, and no attention span. You get garbage. That's pretty much what you get. Hyperactivity and no attention. That's not going to work.
That could be our monthly. What was her name?
What?
Our monthly fish.
Monthly fish? What do you mean, like Squidward? Like, what do you?
No. Like Maggie May.
Yeah, Maggie May Fish, right?
She's hyperactive and all over the place, scatterbrained.
Well,
but I have more hopes for this because this is not Maggie May, and that already makes it hard to be like that.
Okay, I mean, it's
my assumption is that this will be better.
I would assume
it's also somewhat self-aware.
I would assume no one is like Maggie May Fish in the world, so I don't know how to compare anyone to her. She's a unique snowflake, if ever we saw one. In this case, this is the rest of his description. Here on Pillar of Garbage, the content is nestled snugly between pseudo-academic readings of TV, films, or games and inane nonsense. Okay, so he's already setting him up to be a pile of crap, which is fine. If you want to admit, we're just making garbage, this is stupid stuff, fine. We can make fun of you.
He's making fun, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, but we could also make fun. It's totally cool. I'm okay with that. Oh, my pronouns are he, him.
Oh, God.
So, and he's
maybe
from the UK.
Then the fun bit is maybe just an excuse to spout garbage and get away with it.
And promote their whatever political mumbo jumbo. Exactly.
Yeah, we've seen that a couple times.
Okay, so this.
Hello, Mark. Welcome to the Ethnostate.
Yes. Where everyone
Squid State.
Everyone works at their version of a franchise burger joint or whatever. I don't know.
Are they now?
It's Filet-O-Fish.
Every fast food joint is now Taco Bell.
Or something like that.
Just like Demolition Man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Franchise wars.
After the franchise wars, Taco Bell reigns supreme. Oh boy. I would love to see like a McDonald's go from like fast food and then have a version of like ristorante, like a high-end food restaurant. Maybe a tavola calda. I don't know, something, aside from what they have now. I think that'd be kind of cool to see what they do.
Like gourmet burgers.
They should.
Salad.
They should, because they got that at Costco. You have a gourmet section at Costco. You could buy, expensive fish and caviar or whatever. So why not with fast food? Just up the game. Just do better. Make better food.
And it's not fast food anymore.
I know, but it's McDonald's like plus or McDonald's better, whatever. We're healthier, bigger, more refined.
Slow food.
Slow food done well.
Smart. That's you're creating a two-tier society.
I'm okay with that. You can.
You don't believe in binaries, Wisp?
Oh, we can have a free class society.
I'll go.
Like the plebs, the clerics, and the managerial class.
The way that we've been eating food or getting deliveries this past 2 years, I would love to see like the bottom of the barrel be like, okay, we're gonna send you the food, but it's gonna be fast. It won't be very good because it's so quick, literally quick. And then the next step is to pick it up yourself. The next step is to eat in the restaurant. Then it's normal fast food, and then you have layers on top of that. So it's like, all right, I want quarter pounder of cheese.
I have gotten good fast food from an Indian restaurant quicker delivered to my home than I had sometimes spent time in a Burger King or McDonald's to get my fast food.
It must be different where you are because
it's different on the location as well. Like there has been like McDonald's that are like slow as hell. But the one that I have manages to like make a delivery in 5 minutes.
Yeah. I've also seen one Burger King in Berlin that completely stunned me. That was able to serve several customers at the same time because the guy had real energy and was just basically throwing out the burgers into the crowd. Almost. It was more orderly than that, but that was the vibe. That was surprisingly good.
I've seen places like that. Not franchises.
Yeah, but the thing here, the things where I am, it's like you wait for an hour, and there's nobody in the line. Like, do I have to order the patty from the main location or something before they unfreeze it? Or I don't know. Demolition Man is going to be real, apparently.
I did hear about not certain states, but one state in particular in the U.S., there are food lines for people to buy food from food banks at cheaper prices because food is now more expensive at the grocery store than going to a food bank and just buying it there.
Yeah, it's strange because we still overproduce?
It's just wild that everything's 25% more from the past 2 years, and people are lining up to buy food from food banks. It's nuts.
Well, when COVID hit, a lot of the restaurants have shut down, so like they refused like a lot of the food. I have seen like a lot of videos where farmers filmed themselves that they had like a field of like onions. They just couldn't sell them because there was no customer that would be clients that would be willing to like take them in because they just had an overabundance of those resources, and like nobody took it in because they were just wasted.
Yeah.
So I guess like they adjusted to that kind of economy, and now that we are returning to normalcy, at least in that department, they just can't do it. Like it's gonna take a few years to adjust to like how it used to be.
What I got from I need to sneeze. It's one of those slow ones. It takes like 10 seconds to come out. Bloody hell. What ran by me was that there's an issue with fertilizer production.
Really?
Yeah, that's an issue. And of course, then we have this whole inflation thing going. And what do our wonderful governments have as a plan against that? Print more money and give it to the people to compensate for things getting more expensive.
I thought we cured things with the Haber process back 100 years ago when...
No, we print more money. Because that helps against inflation. Don't you know?
Well, I do have a stock in Nutrien or nitrate or potassium nitrate, which is potash. It's doing very well. I never thought about it that way, that we were running out of resources for growing crops. I thought crops were...
I don't think we're running out. I think it's just all these economic systems are just broken now.
Oh.
I put my money in green energy. It's called NVIDIA. It brought me back like $20 yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, like I bought it when it was 200, and now it's back to 261.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Nice. Is that?
It's a grass company.
I want to make a Bitcoin joke, but I don't think it works.
All right. Anyway, let's get on with the video. 11 minutes, 42 seconds. Shouldn't take that long, unless this guy is absolutely bonkers. So we'll find out. Here we go.
Squidville, the iconic Season 2 episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, might just be a little less unrealistic than you had assumed. This is the story...
He even has the video essayist voice.
Oh, well, it's funny because
where you always talk like this so that it sounds like you are a professional doing a video because you don't sound like an actual human.
When we decided collectively or unconsciously not to watch a Renegade Cut video yesterday, I actually watched one of his earlier ones, like 7 years ago, where he covered Star Trek Generations. And he had... I didn't even know it was him. It sounded like a normal...
He had so much passion.
It was like a fan talking about Star Trek, and I was like, is this a Renegade Cut video? It was weird. But it only had 25,000 views or something, whereas all his political dead to the world sounding other videos, which happened years later, have like 100,000 views or whatever. So I guess that's why he changed. Because
it's kind of like the evolution that Mike Stoklasa from Red Letter Media had with his voice. Like if you go back, like really back, like when in like the late 2000s, he had like a very different voice. And nowadays, he almost sounds like Plinkett.
Oh, really?
Like maybe like the person is taking over.
He's also getting fatter.
Well, he needs to play the live action.
I think he's always been that relative size for the past few years.
No. Well, the past few years.
For maybe, I think relatively like a decade now. Yeah, he has been.
Just as Rich Evans is getting slim now, it's all moving over to Mike.
Oh.
So
the bullying that Mike has done to Rich.
Yeah,
is now coming back.
See, it works. Bullying fat people works. So, and I think there is a fixed amount of fat in the world. And that's why Rich Evans' fat didn't disappear. It transmigrated over to Mike.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
In which everyone's favourite cephalopod, Squidward Tentacles, finally snaps after being tormented one too many times by his two moronic neighbours, and moves to a place which the internet has since lovingly named the Squidward Ethnostate.
It's the Squidnostate.
At last. Weird, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that the sort of place we're shown here in Tentacle Acres does indeed exist, sort of, and has for quite a while. And I'm also here to tell you why that matters. I'm making this video because a couple of days ago a friend of mine forwarded a meme to a group chat I'm in.
What does he mean? The no-go zones we have in Europe now? They're ethnostates.
So he means there's a literal physical place on the planet that has an ethnostate. Okay, fair. That they do exist. Yeah.
China.
Is it just about gated communities?
Sure. I mean,
that would be boring.
You could say Hong Kong's an ethnostate, but it's not a big deal. You could go live there if you want. No one's stopping you.
But not now. Not anymore.
Well, yeah. If you want to get real estate, it's a little expensive, but yeah.
The real estate is not the issue I have with going to Hong Kong now.
Well, I'm just saying it's possible. You can go there.
Yeah, you can.
This meme
you can.
Specifically on screen now, and it made me chuckle, but it also made me think back to this episode of SpongeBob. It's an episode I've not seen for a decade easily, but it's also one that stuck with me, because what a wild premise. Squidward moves to a new squids-only neighbourhood, a sprawling infinity of homogeneity, because he's sick of living near people he views as fundamentally different from himself, even though, as we later see, they're pretty similar all in all. And because this channel is one which often takes light-hearted things way too seriously, I want to suck all the goofy zaniness from this classic SpongeBob story and replace it with a sense of biting political satire. So sit back and let me break down how the Squidward ethnostate is a...
Wait. The episode itself is satire.
I thought he was going to talk about a real place, not the show.
I guess he's gonna talk about it.
How do you satirize satire?
I'm confused. Like, are we watching or analyzing the show, or is he talking about a real place in reality and comparing it to the show?
It should show up by now.
Okay.
I guess we have to find out.
Yeah. All right.
I guess first he has to like explain the episode, and then in Act 2 of the video, then he's gonna talk about the real one.
It's gonna have a big subtitle, like a paragraph.
In case like it's not obvious how the episode ends, because like SpongeBob is probably like one of the most niche shows around.
All right.
What?
Here's Tacitus. Hey, Tacitus. I'm going to make a prediction. He's going to say, since this is a big walled area populated by people with big noses and an insular culture, that Squiville is Israel, and before anyone calls me anti-Semitic, I am Jewish.
Oh, is that because they all play something that doesn't look like but sounds like a bassoon?
Oh, they have the walls, so like that's the one where they cry.
Well, it could even be the Vatican. It could be all kinds of places with walls. It's not a big deal, like ancient China.
No. It's like that very special wall in Israel.
Oh, the one wall. There's the one.
The one wall above all.
Yeah. Can't have any other walls. All right.
Reflection of a very real phenomenon, and why you should care. First things first, I believe we can view Tentacle Acres as an ethnostate. Here's why. The geopolitics of SpongeBob's ocean have always been extremely vague. Or I guess that should be thalassopolitics. But despite all the settlements we see in the show seeming to owe some sort of loyalty to King Neptune, they do appear to have some degree of autonomy. Just look at Tentacle Acres. They seemingly have a system of self-governance.
Here, just read this. What is it? A well-thought-out and organized list of complaints.
Add to this the obvious fact that they also have a set of strictly defined and enforced borders, and yeah, for all intents and purposes, Tentacle Acres does seem to function as a microstate, one which rigidly polices the ethnic makeup of its population. So I believe the ethnostate interpretation is on some levels a valid one, but sticking rigidly to this narrow...
That would just be a city-state. It's just a tiny little city that declares independence. That's about it.
Yeah, and that even then, it does not mean that it is in opposition to King Neptune, because you can have that king or Kaiser above you, still, as long as you pay taxes or whatever to that entity. If you want to take the soul too seriously,
yeah, this is
you can run your little feudal pocket the way you want.
Yeah, this is really trying to read into something by applying a bunch of terms this dude learned, without actually realizing, there's no actual relationship or connection to what is in the show. He's just reaching because he studied something.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
He said from the start that he's going to do that.
I don't know what's going on.
Whether that's just his stupid excuse, I don't know.
Yeah.
Forward excuse.
It's a strange take to start analyzing kids shows and start applying politics that don't belong. You're like, what are you doing? How does this work? How do this comedic show about a guy believing he doesn't need his friends anymore because he's fed up with them, to find other people like him, to realize he doesn't like himself that much, so he has to go back to his friends or something. I'm assuming that's the plot of the show. I haven't seen it.
That was like the plot of the episode, that like Squidward gets fed up with SpongeBob and Patrick because they're just too silly for him, so he wants to go to like a place where everyone is like him. And then eventually he realizes that it's really, really boring because every day is the same. And like there's like no fun allowed. Yeah, like everything that strikes away from like the norm is regarded as like a felony there. So eventually he just becomes kind of like what SpongeBob has been doing to him. And then like he just like flies away from the place. It's a really good episode from SpongeBob. I have recently seen it. I've never seen SpongeBob like before, like a month ago, and that was my introduction to it. So I think it was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, it is. It is. Squidward learns. It reflects upon him. Is forced to reflect upon himself through this.
Oh yeah,
that's how he learns. Like, oh shit, I'm a horrible person.
All right. Well,
and it's great at first because he can unwind. He can decompress from the stress he always had from Patrick and SpongeBob.
All right.
And then that gets stale.
Okay, here's Vladimir Dragunov. This is not a donation, just he gets highlighted because he's a member. Wouldn't Tentacle Acres just be an HOA on roids? HOA. What is an HOA?
I have no idea.
Home over the air. No. I'm trying to think.
Homeowner association.
Isn't that just a community?
Well, yeah. I think it only becomes a gated community once you build a fence around it, but it's not that different.
Well, yeah, but
What I've heard of American homeowner associations is they have worse rules for you in your normal house than Germans have in their Schrebergarten associations,
well,
which just exist for fun.
if you have
And that's where they do the Squidward shit.
if you have a certain street and let's say a developer wants to come in there and buy some of the, I don't know, the city land and put a building there or put a house, the street can say, no, we don't want that. That'll change the property value. That'll do this or that. And we don't want a large object next to my tomato garden or whatever your argument is. Like you can do that and petition to the city saying, no, I don't want this. We don't want this. Please don't do it. So that to me, I would imagine is along the lines of HOA, just them just having absolute control. So no one can come in.
I've always wondered that this must be this American thing of moving around every few years. Because I don't understand this worrying about property value. In Germany, when you build or buy a house, most people try to build a house actually because they want the way they envision it. They build that to give that to their children and then grandchildren down the line, so that you have some property that lasts no matter what the economic situation is. If you get enough inflation, your house is still standing. Your house doesn't change its natural value.
That's definitely one way of looking at wealth. Yes, real estate, for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I personally don't really understand this whole thing. I do get it in exceptional situations where, for example, here in a local area, Volkswagen, VW, VW wanted to expand a local airport it's not at the actual factory, it's a town next to it, but they wanted to expand that, which is usually just used for research. It's a research airport. But because that is closer to them than the capital city that they have the factory in, they would have shorter supply lines if they could land their stuff there. However, in order to, they needed to extend the lane where the airplanes start and land, and the airstrip. And for that, they would need to cut down a forest. Now, all the locals, of course, got up in arms about, oh no, the forest. And especially, I think some parts of that city went, oh no, the property value of our entire part of the city is going down, because now the airplanes will fly over our houses. So that's when you can understand it, because nobody will want to live there. Assuming you built your house there, it's all nice and dandy, and you want to give that to your children. Why would your children want a bloody house where the planes are flying over all the time in low altitude?
That reminds me of where I live, because when I first came here, like a long time ago, I don't know if the plane technology changed, but they were flying roughly 20,000, 25,000 feet, something like that. And as planes got better and faster, they flew a heck of a lot higher. And you couldn't hear, you still can't really hear anything in the air. And obviously the past 2 years, there haven't been too many planes anyway. But you might hear a plane every few months, but it's so quiet because they fly so high.
Yeah, but smart. When the landing strip is just 5 miles from your house.
Oh, no, forget about it. Yeah.
And you are in the direction the planes are starting and landing in.
Yeah, don't forget about it. That's ridiculous. No. Pearson Airport is west of Toronto, and it's about from where I am, about a 15-minute drive away. So that's at least 10, 20 kilometers. So it's not like it's not a big deal. But when I first came here, I was like, oh, you could hear, they'll wake you up in the middle of the night depending on how quick and crazy they are. But now it's great. So, yeah, good stuff. Planes are quieter because they fly higher. I don't know about 2-engine smaller planes like the economy planes, not jet planes, but I don't know what the style of engine is called. Non-turbine planes, I guess. Propeller planes. Those still fly pretty low. So, but not around here. We have another airport south of Toronto. Anyway, Joe Crazy. I guess the guy has never seen a gated community. See, that would have been the easiest analogy comparison. That's all I had to say.
Yeah.
But you have to go
just
political.
going for this because it's all Squidwards.
Yeah, he just read some book or learned about boundaries or country boundaries and how they're formed back in school. Oh, I'll use this term. Okay. Vladimir Dragunov, thank you for the 5. I've heard some HOA horror stories of HOA overstepping their boundaries. Yeah, it depends. It depends whether they're on that street, on that area of land, especially if it's a gated community where they have millions and millions of bucks and they can buy, if they wanted to, other areas of land and keep other people out. So there's lots
We have noticed your yard grass has just reached over its maximum allowed height of 3/5 of an inch.
Yeah.
You are in violation.
Well, that
And neglect and continuous neglect of mowing your lawn.
Well, that and they could actually put ramparts on their castles if they wanted to, because their houses are pretty much castles at that point. So, yeah, they could put cannons on top and just like threaten people hundreds of meters away. Anyway, okay, we're going to talk about the politics of the Squidward community.
Reading misses, I think, the point. Because even if the episode evokes the concept of ethnostate, intentionally or accidentally, it seems way more interested in another equivalency entirely. Tentacle Acres as American suburban hell. I mean, just visually, this place seems to parody the stereotypes of post-war suburbia. Rows
That's
and
what it
rows
is.
of identical houses set back from the road as far as the eye can see.
Wait.
Because that's what it is.
He's comparing the Squidward gated community to the design and world of suburbia after World War II in America.
Well,
and this all came from a guy that sent him a meme of SpongeBob.
Wow. I mean, sure, why not?
It is a suburbia, but the difference between general suburbia and the gated community is only, do you have a fence around it? There are gated communities that look like suburbia. There are gated communities where everyone has an individual house, and you have your bakery inside the gated community,
Yeah.
and the pharmacy, and your dentist that everybody knows, and everybody knows whom he's shagging.
Yeah. Well, all you get in your car, or multiple cars, is a sensor, so it opens the gate automatically when you come near it, and that's as sophisticated as the community is. You don't have to talk to anyone. You don't have to talk to your neighbors. You just go up to your castle and just, put your Rolls Royce in the three car garage and mow your 2-acre lawn or whatever. So, good for them. I don't care.
With shops and other commercial amenities grouped together outside of the residential sprawl. This isn't a city planning video, so I'll spare you the rant about why this isn't the right way to design a lived environment.
Why?
But it's fairly obvious that this is the primary.
In the case of the Ethnostate, the shops and all other things are inside the residential place that is surrounded by a golden wall. So it's not as simple suburbia. It is an actual gated community.
In parts of downtown Toronto, and many parts, in fact, there is like whole residential areas, and all of a sudden there's like a bar in the middle of nowhere, like where a house should be, and you're like, hey. And some of those bars are actual houses or restaurants as well, and they just converted them into restaurants. It's really funny. So that's pretty common. It works. People like it. It's basically been there for years and years, decades even. And it's part of the community. So, for whatever reason, a family converted their house into a restaurant or a corner store, and it just worked out. So, is that good? planning? Probably not, but you can do whatever you want with your house. And that's how these things start. Someone just is really good at making lasagna. It's like, hey, you should sell that. You're like, yeah, you're right. I'll just convert my kitchen.
And we have quasi-suburban parts around our cities. However, they do tend to have basic necessities there. There's somewhere you will find a bakery, a pharmacy, everything in walking range.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't mind that. I kind of like it because, if you're going for a jog or taking your bike ride or whatever you got, and you can stop and get a drink or whatever, and the guy there or the girl there just knows everyone, so it's very friendly. It's very nice.
And we do consider 10 minutes and a little above as a walking range. I know that must sound absolutely horrifying to Americans who take the car to fetch the mail from the mailbox.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, 10 minutes walking range. That is that is all local. That is usually all in range.
Well, that's what happens when you have these gigantic townhouse zone areas that develop, and they're just pure residential. And the mailboxes are not per house; they're in a section down the street for every single thing on the street, every single house on the street. And my brother's is like that, actually. He has to go walk a block south or two to the main road and bring his key and you unlock it and whatever. So
I've heard of that. An old friend of mine had that, and her mail was constantly messed with or stolen, packages stolen or given to neighbors that then didn't have them.
It's very similar to a condominium where you go to the base level and there's the mailboxes there, but that's for small boxes and letters. Obviously,
and it's within the building.
Within the building, yeah, for sure. So, little different. Not the end of the world, but that's just how houses are being developed these days. This is definitely suburbia, so in developing communities. But we're talking like a half an hour drive north of Toronto, at least, and it just keeps. There's so much growth in our area. It's nuts. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but there's been a housing boom for the past 5-6 years in Toronto and Vancouver. So it just has not stopped. It's kind of nuts.
Is that because of your limitless immigration?
There's lots of reasons. Immigration is partially the reason, but not really.
Has there been like some kind of support for building houses?
It's because the dense residential areas downtown are all being bought up by foreign investors, and they have these huge condominiums where old single or double story buildings used to be. So like there was this place, a really well-known, not a supermarket, but a general store called Honest Ed's. It was there for like, the 50s or 60s. That was knocked down and they built this giant condominium right there. But that's very common in Toronto. Like if you know, there were those top 10 lists. So the top 10 cities in the world that have the most cranes because they're building high rises. That Toronto's been on the top of that list for so long, and it's I could look out my window and look north and see cranes of buildings being put up, several blocks north of me in the on the horizon, because there's so much development in Toronto. The problem with the foreign investment and development of downtown Toronto is no one's living there. They have these empty apartment buildings and empty condominium buildings, and it's just the prices aren't going down. It's crazy.
Oh right, I remember. There's tons of Chinese investment in Toronto that holds all the estate, and they're not selling.
They're not selling.
Or letting people live in it.
They're billionaires. They don't care. What's a few $100 million? Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, they're just taking the stuff.
They're waiting for like 30, 40 years or whatever until they get their investment back. It's like, okay, that's crazy.
Or send Chinese immigrants down the line.
Yeah, I know.
And then you suddenly, because the housing is already there, and they will then prefer it with preference put their own people in there.
They can't.
That'll be an interesting scenario.
They can't expand in Hong Kong anymore. They got to come to Toronto, I guess. I don't know.
That's how you take over countries.
It's a very interesting way of doing it. Yeah, but That's how it goes. Anyway, here's Vladimir Dragunov for the 5. We have nearly 400 million people. They gotta live somewhere. Sorry, it's not like Japan, where they can be packed like sardines.
Of course you could do that.
Well,
Just wouldn't like it as much.
I remember 8 years ago we had our first smart condominium on Queen and University, or roughly that area. And you're talking about the smallest was 385 square feet. So pretty dinky. It got a little smaller to 360 in other places, but that was like maybe a room or two for an apartment. And everything was pulling out of the wall, like your bed. Everything was into, like the kitchen was also the all the appliance rooms was just all one room. You see the washing and dryer right next to the stove and the fridge. You're like, that's efficient, at least. Not the best way to go about doing your laundry, but if you only bought less than 400 square feet, where are you gonna do it? Where are you gonna put all these appliances? Outside of having an appliance room in the basement for everyone, but people gotta buy their own appliances for 400 square feet. Anyway. Silent Slimy. I don't know what that means, but thank you, Vladimir.
Okay. Oh, Sans corrected me. We don't use the car to check the mail anymore. Not with these gas prices.
Oh, wow.
So it's gonna make people work out.
No longer driving. I can't afford it. Taking my bike to work 2 hours later. Okay.
Association the episode is trying to make with the visuals of Tentacle Acres. But how do these aesthetics of Suburbia link to the troubling ethnic exclusion of the setting? Well, the fit is better than you might think, because the very type of American suburbia...
How about the ethnic? It was literally just a metaphor that, like everyone else in that squid Ethnostate, I'm sorry, Wisp, was exactly like him. Like, it wasn't because it's racism. It was just like Squidward is representing the dull, depressed, everyday worker who is just fed up with his life and wants to like do something where like he has full control. Mm-hmm. But then he realizes that like the kind of like paradise that he envisioned for himself wasn't as nice as he first thought.
He wanted a safe space.
Was anyone excluded from the community? Like, did you?
Yes, like everyone who was not like him. Like they were exactly looking for those kind of Squidward type of people.
Okay.
Like it's not just about the look. Well, probably is a bit, but it was only just a metaphorical tool. It wasn't that like it was a message about racism.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah. Because by the end of the episode, they are fed up with him because of his actions, not because how he looks like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he's not Squidward enough. They've probably thrown out other squids.
Yeah, see, a gated community cares about their investment. They care about their neighbors, and they take care of their investment as well. So everyone's real estate value remains the same, if not higher. That's it. You could be having crazy loud parties because the lots are so big you can't hear them from across your yard or the road. It's not that big a deal. You're in your own little castle, your own little world. That's fine. With Squidward going around and causing a ruckus, they're going to be like, what are you doing? Why are you ruining our paradise? You obviously don't belong. So
yeah, Squidward is not enough of a Squidward to fit into Squidward world.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the cultural behavior of people of the same ethnicity living together. That's not the problem, or that's not even the story.
Proper behavior.
Yeah.
It could be a Karen space.
Oh boy, that'd be fun.
A Karen's
constant complaining. It's great.
This episode evokes has a rich history of ethnic discrimination and covert racial segregation. Take Franklin, Tennessee, for example, a suburb of Nashville. Nashville is 28% black, but the nearby suburb of Franklin is only 6.6%. Part of this is less overtly intentionally racist and more reflective of...
It's not racist.
Wait, it's not zero. If it was racist, it would be 0.
No one is stopping anyone from buying a house from realtors, or realtors aren't stopping people from buying. Realtors want to sell. Okay, they're like, hey, we got houses. We don't care who you are.
Also, when you the ratio of the white and black population, and then we are not even counting out all the other minorities, is large. Like largely white, like white that we suppose that they came from Europe. But it's gotta be unbalanced, regardless how you look at it. Like, what does this guy want? Does he want like 50-50%? Like, oh well, we can't really get you into this neighborhood because like you're white. Like we already have like so many white people here.
Right.
That would be racist.
And now we're talking about communities, which are, like, let's say communities in Toronto. We have a series of Asian communities, Chinese, Italian, Greek, Portuguese, you name it, we got it. And there's numerous ones of them. The reason why you want to live in those areas of the same community is all the things you loved from your home country or you grew up with are there. You can it's like, hey, look, there's the kebab place down the street, or there's the lasagna shop, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not because I can't afford it.
There's a natural
anywhere
drift.
else.
You have a natural drift to people similar to you in culture, in language, in behavior. That's just there.
Yeah, they had that
Otherwise-
in the US as well. Like those 50 or so million Germans. Like they even had their newspapers and everything in German until the World War.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and there's still areas that are largely German populated.
Like
where they still
up
speak a lot
until
of-
what,
lots
like
of
the
German.
90s. That's like when they still had like everyone had to like refer to like what kind of ethnicity do they belong to. 49 million of them were German.
yeah, and
Out of 300 or so
the
million.
comparison to the
That's a
States
lot.
is always to Canada that the States is a melting pot. So you learn the language, you become acclimated, you declare your, what is it? You get your actual American not green card, but the citizenship. You have to declare yourself to your pledge allegiance to the flag stuff.
Wait,
All that stuff. So you have to become an American. In Canada, you can move from any country pretty much. Yes, you do have to do some tests here and there, but you don't have to learn English. You don't have to learn French. You could just keep within your community and go to work, however that is, and no one cares. You don't have to learn.
Really? Because I've read that like Canada has its official language as English or French.
Oh yeah, there are tests you could pass, but I've met seniors that could barely speak a word of English from multiple languages, multiple cultures, and they're all within their community, and they get by
it's
just
because they don't need to speak English when they just stick to their their little pocket thing.
yeah, they're all
That is, but that then acts like a colony, like a parallel society. And that is what should not happen.
that's very
When
common.
you have your country and people are immigrating into it, they should learn the basics of the main language.
I agree. I totally agree. But this is very, very common in Canada. So
Yeah, that's bad. It's bad, and that's how you got to get when this escalates, like we have in Europe now. We get no-go zones because it's not just they don't speak the language anymore. It's that they don't allow the original nation to exert the law, to enforce the law.
Yeah.
So and then they start making their own laws in their little pockets, and then that is simply seized territory. I just realized you said 50 million Germans that of German background. That's
49 million from that like statistics from the 90s. Because
Yeah,
after that they have abolished that, so like everyone is technically just American.
yeah. Oh yeah, unless you're black, then you're African American.
No, like even if you're like mixed, I think like you were still like belonging to the Germans.
Yeah, I just find it weird that
From
they
family tree.
erase that part, but they keep it for black and brown people and for Asian people, but they and Hispanics, but the European origins they erase. I find that weird. And maybe that's where this whole white nonsense comes from.
But it is kind of funny that like if you have like a European culture, then like you just need to get rid of it as soon as possible. But if you're like coming from like some very special place, then it's just fine.
No,
Just keep it as much.
Then you have to keep it as much and celebrate it and whatever.
Yes.
But when you are light-skinned, you also not just have to abandon your own culture. You also are not allowed to adopt another, because that would be cultural appropriation. So you're
by any means,
you're left in a void. But I just realized that's 49 million. That is basically a second Germany.
Yes, it's yeah. I was like shocked because I thought like it's like mostly English, but I cannot trust that information that I read that it was fully accurate, because like his estimation was that there were more Germans at one point in American land than they were Englishmen, because they had to get everyone to like speak like the common language, and then they decide to like, go with English.
It's just we have about 80 million people in Germany, and at this point they're not all German.
Yeah,
I don't know the numbers anymore, but I could
does like
imagine
the
that it's
land of
equal
Germany
amounts
like
now.
have like any places that used to belong to Poland or the Czech Republic or some other places like that?
And those people mainly moved into Germany when they were driven out. We had entire associations of the Vertriebenen, the driven out. It was my grandma was in one of these, and she hated most of the people there. It was one
From
of the few
Bohemia?
things where she could go to meet people. No, she was from Upper Silesia.
Mm-hmm.
Had a farm in the village and all, with a blacksmith. Her father or grandfather, I think her father, was a blacksmith, and she said he was so well liked that people came from 3 villages or past 3 villages with blacksmiths to get to him. And then other little stories from her childhood. One that scarred her, which is why she can't eat lamb.
Wow.
She has no trouble. She has no trouble doing killing other animals to process them. But lamb she can't, because she once when she was sick, she had to stay in a room, and it had one window out into the slaughter yard where the animals were butchered. And,
okay, I understand everything.
Yeah. Through the window, she then saw how one of the lambs was slaughtered, and ever since then, she couldn't eat lamb anymore.
All right. Let's keep going.
Lots of fun stuff.
Here is Porcelinus IV. Oh God, a British commie has an opinion on American politics. I don't know if he's a commie. I just know he's a pronoun person. Yes, the HOA in its original form was invented to exclude minorities from white neighborhoods in the 40s and 50s. Squidward's echo chamber is about interests, not just race.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so even he admitted it was a satire. It's not the same thing, obviously.
Like, it just, I'm tired that people are bringing back things from the 50s and 60s that are no longer applying today. And
Almost 100 years ago.
Almost 100 years ago too. But like, I'm just, like, can they just stop and just talk about like the animation itself?
It's like after World War II to complain about what happened in 1850.
Well, I wish everyone had these problems regarding economic policy. They would constantly be like, who's the guy to vote for to fix the inflation problem again? Oh, right, we solved this problem back in the 1910, or right before the 1910s. We didn't have a Federal Reserve controlling the money supply.
We should come up with like a second income tax. I don't know.
Tax everyone more. Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, boy. Jimmy Carter. What a great guy. Anyway, let's keep going.
Structural racism and economic inequalities. The classic American dream of leaving the city for the quietness of suburbia, the white picket fence and all that, is only achievable if you've got enough money to, buy a suburban house. And since, due to a variety of historical and sociological reasons, your average white American tends to have more Benjamins than their minority counterparts,
that was the communism.
that translates to suburbanites being...
What is he talking about?
Very short. Yeah, here's your communism.
Banking, housing, criminal justice, public health, and education. What is...
Yeah, and then you have this chasm in between. Systemic, ongoing
my
racial
brain just can't
inequalities
process
maintained.
this. Wisp. Like seriously, I have trouble like looking at this diagram.
How does housing...
I understand why. I currently have a migraine.
How does,
I can relate.
How does housing relate to criminal justice? Is because the community that you have houses in has a crime rate?
Maybe if there are like skeletons under that house, maybe. But otherwise, I don't know.
This makes almost no sense.
This is your critical race theory. This is communism.
I'm not even sure what this is.
How do you
read the thing in the center? That's
like,
all the buzzwords.
Whisp,
all
like,
the bullshit.
do I need to like read it from top to bottom of the other way around? Seriously?
Internalized race-based beliefs and feelings within individuals. What?
Excuse me?
That's internalized racism.
I don't know what that is.
In 21st century
you just
US?
can't help yourself that you're racist because, well, you're white. Of course you're racist.
I can't help my eyes see a white guy walk across the road. Yeah, you're right. I can't stop reality.
Oh my god, the person has less melanin than me. Then he probably has internalized racism.
It means you immediately treat people different because of their race, of their skin color, because of their skin color, and you just can't help yourself.
You know,
that's internalized racism.
I think Freud would have a better argument for psychosexual understandings of whatever, as opposed to this nonsense. Because I'm not even sure what this means.
Yeah, it's because you're not an indoctrinated communist.
Well,
you didn't go through gender studies with critical race theory module.
Interpersonal, which is between people. Okay, bigotry and biases shown between individuals through word and action. What?
Well, if you have a prejudice against someone, then that's that. Then you're oppressing the other person because you don't know the person yet.
Yeah, if someone makes any comment about a thing, like, I like chocolate because it's yummy, and you're like, that's a bias. You're like, yes, that is a bias. And it was said by a white guy from Belgium, so I'm assuming that's a racial thing. I don't know.
Who, Leo II?
I don't know. Like, I'm sure some people from certain races have biases about certain things because they have more experience than others. Like, Italians might have a bit more experience with pasta because it comes from the goddamn country they come from. So
you think?
So they might know a little bit more about it and have preferences, a.k.a. biases, yes, I assume.
And that's bad.
That's
you
bad?
Need to eradicate
Why?
all of them. You must not assume that anyone knows anything better or worse than anyone else. Only then you are not racist anymore. If you do not have any assumptions about anyone ever, which is the best state of mind to be exploited by a con artist.
When I want to go out drinking, I invite my Belgian or German friends out, and I learn something. I teach them something. It's a great time. This is why I seek these people out. Now, there are some Asian friends I have who are whiskey lovers, and that's a whole other kind of drinking. So, I think whiskey is the thing that binds us all together. If we could all just get together and trade.
So whiskey is the force.
And just drink whiskey together. I think we'd have a better time.
Yeah, and if you want to learn about potatoes and bread, ask your German and Eastern European friends.
Oh yeah, potatoes.
Potatoes. We have I don't know 200 ways to make potatoes.
I thought that was more of an Irish thing, but okay, maybe other cultures know potatoes.
No, they just found a lot of potatoes, but I think the Germans are one of the people that made an art out of it.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that about German cuisine. Okay, cool.
Look up just there's German cooking recipe sites probably that you can just throw into auto-translate.
Okay.
Just look at the pictures and look for what looks yummy.
I'm gonna go off this screen because there's no point trying to figure this out.
Yeah, but this is your communism part.
Yeah, probably.
The pronouns gave it away. because it's unlikely that you have the pronoun thing, but do not believe in communist bullshit.
Okay.
Reasons, your average white American tends to have more Benjamins than their minority counterparts. That translates to suburbanites being disproportionately pasty. But another part of it is less accidental. According to the Vox article you're seeing now, link in the description by the way, the
Vox.
majority of white suburban house hunters profess a sort of open-mindedness.
Oh, I forgot another thing. Because in regards to all of this, the whole bias thing and stuff. Oh, it's biased against blacks. Why is that other part of the town that he mentioned? Why does that have 26% blacks when blacks only make up 13% of the population in America? Shouldn't it be more equally distributed then?
Well, this is
because
all...
that's like double the amount than there is on average.
Yeah, this is all just probability of saying, well, you have more whites than blacks, and therefore, because there's more of them, there's a greater chance they're going to be richer, and because they're richer, there's a greater chance they're going to be buying more expensive houses or not renting, maybe. You're like, okay, maybe, yes, that's possible, but let's actually look at these communities and say, what's the problem with them? Because I see nothing wrong with anyone of any disposition, of any income stream or whatever, buying a house wherever they want, if they can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like that's the end of the argument. It's like, I see nothing wrong with this. If they can do it, they can go wherever they want. The state will allow them, or the city or the municipality will allow them to get a mortgage and whatever. It's like, great. What's your argument?
Yeah, this is also the statistic here. Can we see the top of it?
Sure.
It's accidental. According to the
racial demographics people say they want in an ideal neighborhood.
Who says this?
Allegedly the person on the left. And they want the thing.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I'm surrounded by Indians, Italians, Yugoslavians, Serbians. This is my street. This is like a cul-de-sac. Okay, it's just
and that's not. And they would just call that is all white.
I guess.
If you're European,
Indians,
but dude, it depends on how you look at it.
Maybe northern India, yes, or northeastern India, yeah, for sure, maybe.
Yeah, but yeah. So genetically, yes, they're just us with a tan, pretty strong one. If you look at Indians and some Pakistani groups as well, because they intermingled. If you take away their tan, like you Photoshop it out, they look exactly like us here in Central Europe. It's so funny. But in regards to this is just people saying that they like to see people similar to themselves. And since you throw all these different ethnicities from Europe into the same pot and call them white, so why you get a higher amount here? If you asked for all these actual ethnicities, you would get much different values between them. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, this is an opinion piece. It looks like, or some sort of voting that someone did, a poll to get these numbers, and I'm like, I don't care.
Especially from Vox.
From Vox,
yeah.
Of all places.
All the poison wells, like you had to go to Vox.
Who would ever ask people, who would you want to live around? Like racially. Like I'd be like, I don't give a shit. Like I don't care.
Racially, I don't give a shit. Culturally, way more.
Yeah, okay.
So I wouldn't give a shit about living in a predominantly Turkish neighborhood, Turkish-German neighborhood in Germany, if they were not Islamists, but integrated Germans. There are lots of Turkish Germans that are more German than Germans.
There is a place
I wouldn't want to live in the part where it's culturally Islamic.
As much as I love
probably throw me off the roof.
Turkish or Indian cuisine, I probably would want to live in a neighborhood that had a very strong curry flavor outside my door, because that stuff is strong. As much
Turkish or Indian, I would go for Indian. I think Turkish cuisine is boring.
Really?
The ones I know here, they don't seem to know what spices are.
Wow, that's amazing. I've never heard of that. Okay. Turkish cuisine is.
There's a few shops that make,
because they're too German now, Wisp. That's why they forgot
German,
the taste.
German Turkish.
The taste of Constantinople.
I don't know, stale.
Wow. There's great Turkish cuisine in Toronto. I don't know the bad stuff. I haven't tried it, but
Yeah.
lots of flavor.
There's a few good places, but in general, it's very low spice.
Okay.
I rather eat Greek than I eat Turkish, to be
Yeah, like
honest.
this is just a preference because you don't want to be on top of a Chinese restaurant. You don't want to be near. There's lots of noise. You don't want to be around a lot of dogs when you're trying to go to sleep, or a park where there's always exploding fireworks or whatever. Like that's the common problem with any place, either downtown or in suburbia. So, yeah, you have a good neighborhood when your neighbors respect each other. So,
Yeah. And Georgios Rex puts it right. If the racial makeup of a neighborhood is your first priority, you're the racist. And that is irrelevant whether it's about you wanting to see people like you, people different from you, or a mix of everything. It doesn't matter. When you care about the racial makeup of your neighborhood, you are the racist. No matter how you care about it.
yeah, we usually gauge. I gauge my neighbors on how nice they are. So if they have excess goods, like
Yes.
they make a cake. Hey, we made 3 cakes. We're crazy. Have one. You're like, what? Why? No reason. Have a cake. And you're like, wow, thanks. Like that's just what neighbors do. They give you excess food or drink, or someone makes wine, or someone has too much cheese. They just give it to you, and they invite you over for tea for whatever reason. Like that's a good neighbor. It doesn't matter if it's Asian tea or British tea or American tea. I don't mind. It's a gift. It's a thing they want to give you and share to be friendly. And some of them like showing off. I admit, some of them are like, "Hey, look at this bottle of scotch I just got." Like, "Ooh, very nice." So it's kind of a friendly way of showing off and being nice to everyone in your community. I don't care where that's coming from. Whether they're Jamaican, they have jerk chicken they have too much of, or too much, I don't know, beer that I hate drinking. That's so weak. It's like water, but they're giving you a gift. You say thank you. Or you say, well, the Italian way is to always say no, thank you, no, thank you, no. I don't want any more. I don't want anything. I'm fine. Until you're blue in the face. 'Cause Italians will never say no, and then it's just a stupid cultural thing. But we like giving gifts, is what I'm trying to say. We want to be the community, or at least the household, where if you come by, we got you covered, whatever it is. Like, even if we don't like it, if you like gin, we got like 4 kinds of gin just for you. No one drinks it. So that's how some communities are. They're very open. But we don't care what you look like.
Vox article you're seeing now, link in the description by the way, the majority of white suburban house hunters profess a sort of open-mindedness towards neighbourhood demographics, but in reality search for and buy places in majority white areas almost exclusively. When it comes to minorities, there's a far smaller disconnect between the sort of neighbourhoods they claim to want
You
and
just
the
showed
sorts
us that
they
the black
actually
people do the
search for.
same.
But it goes far beyond this. There's a deeply embedded mistrust of America's non-white citizens, and the quote foreign influence they might bring within white Americans. And according to recent...
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with race. Look at Trump supporters. You think it has anything to do with race? I think
What
Republicans...
was the question above? I think he scrolls over those questions way too fast.
Yeah, I know. It's like, this has everything
Are
to
you
do...
trying to hide something
Yeah.
and just do the fig leaf of, it was on the screen for a frame?
Yeah,
I think he failed like basic maths.
this has everything to do with political ideology for the past 15 years as opposed to race and what people think of other races.
Oh, look, 12% of black Americans do not agree with the Democratic Party.
Wow.
That's what I read from this graph.
This is... I don't even know why he's making this video, because we've no longer have been talking about Squidward for the past 2 minutes.
Apparently, it's real because there are neighborhoods where it's predominantly some race.
Where some
Like,
people
wow,
like other
almost-
people. Wow, what a great...
Oh, holy shit! He should never come to Europe,
Yeah.
especially like Eastern Europe, where
If you
it's like
think-
predominantly like one race.
Yeah, there is racism in Europe. I know that just because I have friends from multiracial countries like Belgium.
Well, it's like the way of living. Like I say, like it's like healthy racism. That's how we call it. It's like you only use it to joke around, And like
Integrate,
really
no,
deep down, we don't hate people because they look different. We just have like stereotypes, but they are not banished to like a dark realm like in the US. That like you can't use stereotypes anymore because it's just too racist. You just have it as like to make fun of each other. Like
Yeah.
we have it like with so many like times with the Germans because they like how it sounds like their languages. They are always angry. And
Russian is worse. We think that of the Russians.
Yeah, that too. Like Russians and Germans sound angry, and all the Slavic languages sound the same. But then they can just say the same to us that like our language is just because like that's like the major sound that you can make out of it. If you
Ja, ik weet niet
don't know
waarvan
the
dat redest.
language.
Het klinkt toch vol net alles wat ik zag.
Yeah, and it's just like we make these jokes at each other and like we laugh it out. Like we go on by our days and nothing else really. And like, but like these people are like so heartbroken. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Maybe they just don't accept me because I have a different skin color.
Yeah, because all that matters is, do you integrate? And are you a criminal or not? If you don't do crime, nobody has a problem with you.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a tasty restaurant. Because everybody loves a tasty restaurant.
Like I have been in the city for 3 years now, and it's the capital as well. And like I see like a lot of like different kinds of people. Like they come from all over the place. And like it's very rare to like see like maybe like black people, but like otherwise like I see like Turkish and like some Middle Eastern people a lot, like in the region that I'm in, and it's just they act the same. They have like a slightly different culture than us, and like they just go about their business, and that's about it. Like I don't judge them because they have something else in their private life. That's none of my business. I all treat them as like they treat me. So I just go about like this.
All right. Here's Biden on Epstein's Island. Thank you. Americans have a deep distrust of non-white groups and possible foreign influence they may bring. I am this close to bringing up Britain and Gypsies, or Britain and Pakistanis. People distrust outsiders in their community. That's not a white thing. Yeah, I think you're comfortable around these kinds of people. So you say, well, who would you rather prefer? Well, I'd rather prefer what I know.
Yeah,
obviously.
Look, the British have much less of an issue with the Indian people and the Sikhs than they have with the Pakistanis. Similar to Germany, there are immigrant ethnicities that we have a much bigger problem with than with others.
Yeah, the
that
Sikhs
are also obviously not German.
Yeah,
just from looking at them.
Or northern. I think they're northern India. They are some of the nicest people I've ever met. Their religion is fantastic. Very wise and peaceful and calm. I've never seen them get angry. It's amazing. They're just the nicest guys.
Yeah, the only weird one that I've seen so far is the leader of that one Canadian party.
Oh, don't worry about them. That's
he's like I look at him and yeah, he looks like a Sikh, but nothing what he says makes sense in regards to Sikhism.
We've had actual Sikhs, scholars and religious Sikhs who mention him, and they say, you should know what a swastika is. You should know what these terms mean in Sikh culture because it's famous. It's been down for thousands of years.
You should know what the dagger is for.
Yeah, there's all these terms, and he just doesn't know them or doesn't reference them. It's like, dude, you're in Canada. This is like the multicultural center of the world. Just go crazy. Stop the entire Commons and say whatever the hell you want about your culture. We have a deputy prime minister talking about Ukraine. She won't shut up about it. It's like, okay, we get it. You love Ukraine. You're from Ukraine. Yes, you're Ukrainian. We get it.
So he's an actual Sikh poser, just like Trudeau, just about one thing.
I don't know.
But that's making me sick.
He's on TikTok a lot. I do know that. He's on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay. That's enough of a person.
Yeah.
But they admit that they are on TikTok. That's when your life ends.
Yeah, I know. Oh, all right.
Oh, yeah. Just notice with this graphic is great because if you look at it, there are almost as many Black Americans, not percentage-wise, not agreeing with the Democrat Party as there are white Americans not agreeing with the Republican Party.
Yeah, but this is all from Vox.
This is
So
fu-
obviously they're going to say
this
Trump
is
supporters are
funny.
number one for whatever poll they're doing. So this is such a bias slanted poll or series of polls. It's like doing a poll for women at the marysue.com. Like, what do you think you're going to get from that? Accurate data of the representation of America? I highly doubt it.
People saying the American way of life needs to be protected from foreign influence. Oh,
So Trump being an
Oh.
American is foreign? What?
oh my God! No, no, no,
But
no.
he's
no,
from
no,
the
no.
orange
It's
race.
Trump supporters want to protect the American way of life from foreign influence. That's what that says. Holy shit! And the Democrats are majorly against the protection of the American way of life.
What the
That
hell
makes
does
them anti-American.
what the hell does all Americans mean? All Americans need to be.
That's the average.
I hope so.
Well, how I, on a serious note, how I see it is like everyone who is like a proper U.S. citizen is all American.
This is so.
I mean, if Vox did it, they'll probably also ask illegal immigrants.
like there's like 71 million of the U.S. Population is immigrant. So, where does the immigrants there stop? Like once they are like a fully pledged U.S. citizen?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have been like trying to look up like how to even get a visa to the US, and it's so confusing. There's like 100 different visas.
Yeah, and just it's much easier to just you fly to some African country, survive somehow for a day or two, and then take a flight to South America, and then move up to Mexico and through the southern border into California. And you
Oh, by
probably-
that time, I'm
probably
gonna
get
have
in.
enough tans, so like they might think I'm a Mexican.
Yeah, because the great thing is we white people, we have a magical power. We have a magic that the black people don't have. If if we stay in the sun for long enough, we turn brown.
No way. Whisp, are you telling me that you're a shapeshifter?
I'm a wisp.
Okay. Let's keep going.
Might bring within white Americans, and according to recent polls, this fear is growing. It goes beyond fear, prejudice, and bias, however.
What kind of fear? Like, no.
I'm afraid.
It's quite the opposite. Like from what I heard, it's that like there's less and less white people in the population. Like, because like races are mixing, so like they see it as different. Like purely white people are like less and less because of that. And, like it's going against like everything that has been like even like from all different media sources. So I really want to know what he means by that. None of this makes sense. Like he still is showing footage from the 50s. Go away. Come back to
70
reality.
70 years ago.
No, the reality of Vox stats. It's always helpful. Very accurate. Very representative of the general populace. It's like, yeah, okay.
Oh my God, people! Have you heard that some Austrian art student has made a party? He's
Okay,
running for president.
In 1930, that was 70, 1860. You would be complaining about what happened in 1860. Dude, there was this we have several stereotypes and things like that hippies say. And one of them was, man, you're living in the past.
So they were time travelers even back then.
Yeah, man, you must live in the here and now, not in the past, man. You're stuck in the past. This is proper conservatism, if you will. Like he still thinks the world works like it does in 1950.
But he might think that because he's British, so he has never set foot on American soil. I'm only assuming, but this is just I know like a British person does research from Vox on American culture, on suburban neighborhoods. Coming from a Squidward episode from SpongeBob season 2. Get the fuck.
Mark, he preemptively designed his channel in a way that he can always say, "It's just a joke, bro."
I wish this person would like grow up like next to the G words, so like he would understand like what it means.
It's indistinguishable from any other video essay.
Does that mean
video essay?
All the people we've covered have like some version of ADHD, that they just can't control these pervasive thoughts that are so insane that they just need to express it on YouTube, and we have to watch it and go, okay, does this person have some sort of childhood trauma? We don't like which ailment is causing this? Like, what is?
Well, he is British.
He's British.
Yeah, maybe he lives in London. Okay, because I like Hawk enough that I'm not.
He has he has colonial appropriation syndrome, where his past ancestors took over. I don't know, India or something. And
why am I fixing everything?
Like great.
No offense, but like the British rule wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
they brought in a lot of good things.
Yeah, the trains ran on time.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the political and logistical mechanisms of these white suburban neighbourhoods actually contain all the tools necessary to covertly limit the influx of non-desired ethnicities into these waspy paradises. Through small-scale political assemblages, such as homeowners associations, through conservative urbanist movements like NIMBY laws and ordinances, that stands for not in my backyard, by the way, the dominant demographic in many a North American suburb is able to build up barrier after barrier between their racially homogenous neighborhoods and home-seeking minorities.
I seem to remember the same argument. The thing was, the problem was not conservatives, it was liberals in California who didn't want anyone to encroach on their real estate value. This was years ago.
I even heard of one where George Lucas, of all people, were trying to like build like homes for like all kinds of neighborhoods, like very cheap homes, and then like the rich white people were preventing that.
Yeah, because the zoning laws were controlled by them. They said, no, this is our land, or this is our adjacent land. We're going to tell our reps not to zone for whomever wants to develop here because, I don't know, they just don't want it for whatever purposes. So I can't remember the report. This was years ago. This was back in 2014-15. I thought it was 60 Minutes or some other show I watched. But it was not the conservatives. It was the liberals. We're talking about California, so it's pretty expensive land.
Yeah, Smud, like 5 years ago when they were called liberals are now conservatives, you know.
Oh, they were conservatives back then. Now they're not.
No. They were liberals back then, but now that liberalism is considered conservatism.
They're not left leaning enough today. Yeah. Oh boy.
And the erection of ethnic barricades between neighbourhoods or between the city and the suburbs is sadly a practice with a rich history. While some forms of overt segregation were clamped down on, relevant here are methods such as so-called covenants, which were essentially neighbourhood
70 years ago.
Each inhabitant signed, which prohibited homeowners from selling their properties to African Americans.
How is the satire again?
This is not relevant. This is.
How is this video satire? He said it's satire and all fun and jokes. How is this funny or satire?
We don't have these problems anymore. People can buy houses anywhere provided they have the money. That's the problem is inflation and the lack of actual real estate in certain metropolis like Toronto or Vancouver. There is no homeowner going, "You're black, we don't want your money." No, I've never met a homeowner who cares about who you are.
Yeah, and the chat says several people in the chat say "Not in my backyard" was for like when people didn't want a Walmart next to their house, and "Not in my backyard" was used around where I live to keep a landfill out, not people. And that makes sense.
Yeah, the industrial sectors. A lot of these
things going on.
A lot of things with zoning laws, like
not wanting wind parks in your general vicinity is a very understandable thing.
there's all kinds of zoning
It's not
laws
just that they just look shit.
that have existed for decades to say, you can't build industrial centers near commercial centers near homes. Like there's all these laws for that. And there's all these laws within those zones, what you can and can't do, what kind of buildings you can make and how. Like the facade is a dumb one, but it makes sense when you think about it. The pattern of a house, the colors, the shape of the facade and the front, the driveway, all that stuff has to be different within 4 to 5 houses, depending on what section you're looking at, how big the houses are, for example. This is a law. You cannot make the same house within 4 or 5 houses of each. So, and that's in the suburbs. That's way up north. So these are around all over the place. Design.
And
there's all kinds of safety reasons for this. It's been this way for decades.
Yeah, and I think Todd is right when he said in the chat, when he says this guy still believes we live in Jim Crow. That seems to be the general modus operandi of the left.
I'm not sure what argument he's trying to make here. Actually, I don't know.
This is the reaction of these people is that they think we still live in a society that is like Jim Crow. So what to do against it is to use the exact Jim Crow thing, but invert it. Do it the other way around. Do it against the other people. Turn the arrow around about who does it to whom, and they think that then generates justice, because they hit back now against an amorphous group of people instead of individuals, because that is the disease of collectivism. The individual does not matter anymore. It does not matter that you as an individual are completely innocent, have done nothing wrong, have not participated in any of this stuff. But since you are now put in a group that is that of which some people have done a thing, you are now the target of the retaliation. That is collectivism, and collectivism is racism.
All right,
or
we are
at least gets a component very easily.
We are halfway done. It won't take too long to go through the rest unless he says stupid crap. But let's see.
Americans, and these persisted until 1948. It's around this time that the so-called White Flight began, with the mass expansion of Suburbia being fueled by an equally large-scale exodus of white property owners from inner cities to these new, essentially homogenous places.
Why do you think that is? I'll give you a very simple answer. Money. They could not afford to live in the bigger cities. They move outside the bigger cities where real estate is cheaper. That's all. It's not because they were white or brown or black or whatever color. They could not afford to live there, and they needed a house.
Yeah, and guess what? The lefty voters who want all this free immigration, as unchecked immigration, come in. They then, when that immigration comes to their quarters of the cities or towns, then move out of that into a homogeneous area. But they keep voting for unchecked immigration at the same time. They want still more, what is it, multiculturalism? I forgot the word that they're using
diversity,
these days.
I guess.
Diversity, yes. They still want more diversity, but when it comes to their places, they then act like the racists that they accuse of rejecting the diversity and reject the diversity, move out and cluster somewhere else. It's absolutely retarded.
And while legal methods of property discrimination, such as covenants, were becoming less common, de facto methods sprang up to take their place, such as exclusionary zoning laws, or the manufacture of stories in suburban newspapers about confrontation and violence. Whenever a
1919. Like, are you fucking...
Someone wrote an article in a newspaper about a rumor of violence?
What was that? 19? See, this is my problem. It's just there for a few frames.
I'm not following this logic.
This is deceptive.
Yes, like racism existed like 100 years ago. Thank you. But like the effects of it have been significantly diminished by now.
103 years ago.
Yeah, I just can't believe this.
Yeah,
how can someone be this dumb?
It happened in America. It could happen again. History repeats.
Yeah, I mean, if we took this range, I know I brought this joke before, but this is such an extreme case. If we were in 2001, and he brought this video about with something with the same time length, and there was a YouTube and so on, and he brought us an article from 103 years ago, in 2001. That would be 1798. 1898. Ah, my bad. 1898.
Like it's this
That's,
dude.
that's like 2 century digits flipped.
If this dude would like go for like some other European nation's history, like I want to like I'm gonna go with like some Hungarian like history, because like Hungary like lost its independence around like the 16th century. Like we were just pretty much like a puppet state for Austria, and like a large portion was like occupied by Ottomans. So either like the one half was ruled by Ottomans, so you had to like go with that culture, or you had to learn German because you belonged to the Austrians. And only until like the mid 19th century, like people got so fed up that like we made a rebellion because like we didn't want to integrate into like a German culture. And then only like much more like decades after like they allowed us to like do our business in our own language. Like, and you're like bitching about something like this. This is nothing. This is just like, okay, like they actually made their voice heard, and they managed to like pass some laws that reduced like this bullshit. But yeah, like, this is nothing compared now. Like especially like talking about now, like how is any of this related to like a SpongeBob episode? My God,
This is why it's not satire. He's hiding behind the term.
It's gotta be the donkey logic again, or like this kind of argument sounds like, oh, it happened once, so it can happen again. It's kind of like argument against like nuclear energy, like oh look, like Chernobyl and Fukushima. Like it happened like twice, so like it means that we have to abandon this altogether.
Yeah,
we can't allow this to exist.
Yeah,
okay,
stop.
how are you gonna provide energy for like half the population?
Stop airplanes, stop cars. Yeah,
windmills.
Yeah,
we have like these diesel engines that can produce electricity, so like the electric car can like be refilled.
The thing is, these people are living so far in the past that
I would say like they've lived so far in their asshole.
Are outdoing monarchists. These people are outdoing neo-Nazis and monarchists. These people live even further in the past. It's unbelievable. And they are the ones who always bring up, it's current year, to which I say, it's 2022. It's the year 2022, not the year 1919. Bloody hell.
Like you can't say like so much shit about government, but they are like actively documenting like these kind of racial data. Like it's like broke down to like the kind of statistics and such. It's like if you did all this research according to like what the Vox article was saying, which was like probably written by someone after Trump was elected, so it was the bias to like talk more about this race crap. Like none of it really applies to reality.
1919 was 1 year into the Weimar Republic.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
all right.
I
6 minutes and a half. We're almost, well, we're not almost done, but more than halfway done.
Black person moved in. Andrew Wise, in the book Places of Their Own, African-American Suburbanization in the 20th Century, runs through a lot of these methods in the decades following the Second World War, and for him, the best way to conceptualize the presence of African-Americans in suburbia is as forbidden neighbors. If you want to learn more about the ways the expansion of American suburbia was umbilically tied to systematic methods of racial oppression and segregation, there's a link to this book in the description. Wise goes into detail about how suburbanization was closely related to the making of race and class identities in the post-war period, for instance discussing ways in which the creation of segregated suburbs allowed European immigrants to access social and economic mobility. But the key takeaway in my eyes is, and I'm quoting here, that throughout the post-war period,
because even like the Irish
used state and federal funds to demolish African American communities and redevelop them for other uses. So the inherently racist image of the suburb, as invoked by SpongeBob with Tentacle Acres, was a real thing. And by converting it into an overt ethnostate, this episode of SpongeBob might be reaching towards political commentary on the inbuilt racism of suburban culture and zoning laws. And yeah, some of these methods of exclusion have fallen away in the past few decades, but many haven't, particularly issues with zoning. And with the increasing xenophobia of many segments of white America we've seen in the past few years, this
Xenophobia of white America? Have you looked at the black supremacists burning down the country?
So he's going from 1960s and saying, over the decades it's gone away, but not everywhere. And you're like, okay, where? Give me an example.
That we have seen recently.
The past 60 years, something. I think we've evolved in the past 60 years, socially, in America at least. Not everywhere, I'm sure. There are some zones.
We have evolved and then like went backwards. Like after the 2000s or something.
Yeah.
Something clicked with people.
This is... I'm sure there are examples. Give me the examples. Let's look at them. Look at the communities. Because if it's one community, we could say, okay, this group of 1,500 people or 10,000 people, whatever it is, has an issue with race and yada, yada, yada. You're like, okay, great. There's an example. He hasn't done that yet. This is not helping. These Vox numbers are not proving anything to me.
This is not even a high number.
People saying the prospect of a majority non-white country would bother them. What is that even? It's going to bother me that it's non-white or a majority non-white.
And I think that is a deceptive question, because the real question is about what the cultural values are that the people hold that come to the country in.
Exactly.
Yeah, because Hispanics are relatively equivalent in many aspects.
They have
the Christians. They have a high work ethic. They have very high family values.
Yeah, the religion aspects of Judeo-Christianism is pretty much the same in the West. There's not much variation.
Yeah, but if you have Islamists coming over, that is a bigger problem, because those actively create their own little parallel pocket societies that then become no-go zones, and then they try to take over the political system throughout the generations, because that's their plan. And that's if it sounds wacky to you, that's what people have done throughout history, and what these have done throughout history, and other cultures have done throughout history as well. And the Christian counterpart to that would be something like the Quiverful movement, who also have this thing of, because this is why they're named Quiverful. It's about some Bible verse that is like, your children shall be the arrows in your quiver. So they have like 8 to 13 children or something, and then slowly through the generations, telling their children to have tons of children, is how they change the demographic. That's what the Islamists are doing. There is one of the Jewish tribes in Israel is also doing that. It's the one tribe that all the other Jewish tribes hate, because they act like the Uber Jews, who think they don't need, because they are the Uber Jews, they don't need to work and should just be fed by society and tax money and social security, and at the same time have tons of children. But they think they need to do that out of their religious superiority over the others. While for the Islamists, it's a political weapon. In a way, it's a political weapon in both, but it's more so in one than the other.
Yeah,
for one, it's internal. For the other, it's external.
This question is terribly generic to say that people want a non-white country, that such a thing would bother people. You can take that in multiple directions. I don't see how this is helping the argument.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with more Indians here. Indians are super nice people, but if it's if a ton of mainland Chinese would come here, I would be worrying: are they trying to take over maliciously? People from Hong Kong before China took that over, I would be more okay with, because they're more in line with Western values and they oppose the regime of the terror regime of China. But now, is anyone even getting out of that? I don't know. I haven't followed that in a while. So that's the difference. There's a difference between there are Chinese people I am less inclined to trust, and there are Chinese people who I'm more inclined to trust. That has nothing to do with whether they're Chinese or not on its own. It depends on further background details.
I'm assuming they're referring to an American country, or America specifically, as opposed to a European non-white majority country.
Oh, this here is all about America, and non-white and white, non-white is all based on European background.
Yeah, because if it's in the theoretical, then it's like, okay, I could theoretically care or not care one way or the other, depending on my association of what the terms non-white means.
I always wondered, how do they count the Spanish? Not I don't mean the Hispanics. Yeah. I mean the actual people from Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Are they white?
Probably not. No, Latin American or Latino.
But how are they Latin American when they're from Spain?
Can you make the distinction in America when they come by? I don't know. Yeah, it depends on the perception of the Americans. I have no idea.
American racism. This is what I call all this white stuff when I talk about white people.
I'm not sure what to call this.
I will now call this American racism, because none of it makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm just confused in general. I'm not sure who did this. Who's this for? Where did these questions come from? Like, who sat down and I'm going to start to do this poll from Vox, so I could figure out, what's how racist am I in regards to where I want to live. What country is I don't know, the least white for me that I'm comfortable.
And when this poll, and then you have to. So this was 2016. So the answer is easy. But if you add the next bit to that, like if you make a poll now in 2021, do they then still count the Slavs in America as white people or as people of color?
Well,
because critical race theory has in part redefined Slavic people as people of color.
I would like to know where these people are from. Did they just take a bunch of people from California or a certain city, or the north, the south, the east? Like, what part of America? Who did this poll?
I saw part of the article and it was talking about like a Californian town.
Yeah, probably.
And also the article is from 2017, January.
Okay.
I think it answers everything.
All right. Yeah. Fantastic.
Of many segments of white America we've seen in the past few years, this self-segregation hasn't disappeared. Not yet. Increasingly, we're seeing exurbs form. Communities either further out than suburbs or separated in different ways. Like further economic...
Further out from suburbs, what would that be? A farmland? Like, what are you talking about? It's either in the city or it's out the city. Once you start laying down land to live, it's suburban. If it's a farm, then it's a farmland.
What an ugly place.
Well,
it has these big parking lots outside, and what then? Then you walk the rest, or what? What are these? There are two giant parking lots here. What?
Yeah, I'm not sure what those are. Maybe that's another center. Like that's like a parkland, or.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
There's another big parking lot on the left. What is this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
And then
looks more like a 3D rent.
It's
like
really
it's like
wide
very
loop.
Basic one.
Yeah. I mean, anyone else would extend the street and connect it to the other side.
It could be parking spaces for golfing or something. I don't know.
Yes, This entire field looks like it's like for golfing or
Like
something.
the layout is so like warping around. It's like there's probably a golf course just right next door.
barriers, or often literal gates and walls. Sound familiar? Because it
A marina.
Yeah, that's in medieval Europe we called that a city. Was that
Grand,
a city wall or a town wall?
Grand Marina Village. Villas.
What are you
So-
talking about?
So that's the sign.
Oh.
So it's people who live on near the water. So prime real estate. There's lots of people who want to live near a lake, because they like to be near water. It's just a very popular thing with everyone.
Yeah, but he's now making the connection finally to gated communities, and I'm sorry, we've had gated communities for centuries, if not millennia. It was called cities, and if you wanted to be part of the city, meaning a citizen, you needed to abide by the laws of the city, and you could live in the city. You are
Yeah.
likely to also have paid or made some contributions to the city,
Yeah.
so that the city wall could be maintained and the gate could be maintained and the city guard could be maintained that mans the wall and the gate to make sure that you in the city as a citizen would be safe from.
And these
from
were
bad-
usually like inside the castle or something like that.
Yeah. That's the fun about the German terms for this stuff, because the German word for citizen is Bürger. Bürger comes from the word Burg. Burg is the German word for castle.
Castle.
Yes. So the citizen is part of the castle. You are a castle dweller. But I don't know if there's an etymological connection there between citizen and castle. But it would be funny if there was. And this goes back to where do I start? Yes. Oh, this is wonderful. The German word for graveyard is Friedhof. Friedhof is made of Fried and Hof. Hof would be the yard. Now, Fried sounds like Frieden, the German word for peace. However, the word Fried does not come from the word peace directly. It comes from the word Fried. Fried means fence. So the graveyard in German, der Friedhof, is the fenced yard. And we take this to where the castle originated, where you have the main tower. And the main tower in German is called der Bergfried. Berg is the mountain, and Fried, as I already said, comes from Frid. So it is the fenced around mountain. And the main tower, the Bergfried, is standing on top of it. It is surrounded by a wall, a fence, if you will, a Frid, and that makes the castle. And from that, we build out this whole thing of the city. And then we have the Burg, we get the Bürger, so the citizen. And the thing is, when you go back around this etymological route, you find that the word for Frieden in German, peace, is directly related to the word fence.
Just so everyone knows from the audience, this will be on the test.
Yes, of course. So Frieden, peace, is within the fence, the Frid. So you have Frieden inside your castle walls, inside your gated communities, and outside is chaos, danger, the unknown. And we get to this wonderful dichotomy between order and chaos. And that's why we have gated communities. They're just medieval castles, castle towns, in the modern sense.
Yeah, we also have it in our language, like we call towns város, and vár means castle. So, like someone refer to like someone who lives in the town, we call them városi. So it's even in the language, it's like if you want to be like call like someone who lives in the castle, and like yeah, that's the person who lives in the town. Because like with town, it comes with the castle, but it's a very cultural thing. It's only natural that it resurfaces itself in some modern way.
Mm-hmm. And it works the same way. You pay your dues to be allowed the privilege to live in the castle.
Yes, taxes.
Yeah, at large, you could say that our castles have extended to our nation's borders, but we're not maintaining those borders anymore. But they still collect the taxes for it. That's weird.
Yeah, at least you don't have to pay smoke taxes.
All right, let's keep going.
Should. The existence of seemingly placid, serene residential utopias cut off from the mayhem of the city is a constant, both in our world and the world of Bob l'Éponge. But also a constant is the dark implications that places like this bring. After all, the type of person who wants to literally or metaphorically wall themselves and their like-minded friends away from the outside world and different groups of people
that person does not want to be eaten by wild animals and raiders. Like, you know what happens when the Huns come to Vienna?
They hunt.
The Huns are hunting? We get a siege because there's a wall. They can't just raid the city because there's a wall in between them and the city. It's not just a dark place. Yes, you can run your city into the ground. Sure, that happens in history a couple times. Most are usually working quite well. This oh god, this whole thing about walls being evil is just it needs to.
Is this not a guy of like no borders? Because they are retarded, but I'm not gonna explain why. They're just bad because they are like separating people.
Yeah, and these people don't care. They don't care about malicious people coming in. They just say, we are an open society, everybody needs to be allowed in. Yeah,
they don't care
rapists,
until their neighborhood is filled with them.
The sex traffickers, the drug lords, the illegal weapon traffickers. Here, you are against guns, right? The illegal weapon traffickers. If you don't have proper border control, they get to do what they want. And eventually, the raiding party decides to, look, you have gotten rid of all your guns, you have gotten rid of your military because you want to be a pacifist society, you have gotten rid of your wall because you want to be an open society, and then the Mexican drug cartels come moving in and just take you over. Yay. Or what China does with its neighboring countries. Just takes them over. Bam.
All right.
Probably has deeper rooted and more dangerous issues than an affinity for white picket fences. And to its credit, SpongeBob recognised this. After spending a while living in this little pocket of mono-ethnic suburbia, Squidward wises up to the limitations of shutting oneself off from the rest of the world, and their differing cultures and practices. And so, in the ultimate act of rebellion, he misuses the reef blower, the symbol of non-squid behaviour, which initially drove him to seek refuge in the enforced homogeneity of Tentacle Acres, in order to escape from the rows of identical houses and organised oppression of this suburban stand-in. And I think that's a pretty powerful final gesture for this episode, albeit one full of SpongeBob's trademark goofiness. Even filtered through the intense zaniness of this show, this story is a pretty solid refutation of the historic and ongoing racial problems linked to issues.
This is like really stupid because there are like some other episodes of SpongeBob where because there's a character called Sandy who is from Texas, US, and like they make like an episode about her that like the characters are making fun of her because of like where she came from, like how she acts.
Most immigrant,
and then like the end of the episode is that like they just like try to like get closer to her by like opening themselves up, and like they accept each other, and that's like such a beautiful message. So like, if this guy thinks that like Stephen Hillenburg, if I mispronounce his name, was thinking that like, I'm gonna show this like racist suburb metaphor in the kids show, like, come the fuck on.
Yeah, this is not about racism. If anything, the Squidno state is a tyranny because you're only allowed to be one exact way to the detail.
It was more
it's more
like
like a cult.
personification rather than like a race.
Yeah, it's more like a cult rather than anything. It's not a race thing. God, I've a massive migraine. What was the squirrel's name? My God, I watched
Sandy?
the show. Sandy, yes. She is. If you want to go with this metaphor, she is the most immigrant anyone could be to Bikini Bottom.
Yes.
Because she's a squirrel. She can't live underwater. She lives in a dome with air in it, and when she goes out, she wears an astronaut suit to walk around with so that she can breathe air. And when SpongeBob visits her, he puts on a fish bowl on his head so that he stays hydrated. Because she can't, whatever she would do, she could never completely integrate because she would always need the astronaut suit because she is simply not a sea creature.
Yeah.
And this shows us that doesn't matter because she's cool. Sandy is awesome.
Like in SpongeBob, like the show, like SpongeBob and Patrick are like literally the menace in many episodes. Like they literally destroy the town where they live. And everyone regards them as like a bad omen. Just be around. Mm-hmm. And Squidward is literally between the two. So he's mostly like the butt of the joke almost every second episode or so. So like him being fed up with them and like going to like a place where like he can be just himself is like a good premise. But these ideas are just bonkers.
Yeah.
Him just needing you could have made a similar episode where Squidward just takes a vacation in a place like that. And when he comes back to Bikini Bottom, he sees it all a nuclear wasteland.
Yeah,
because
easily.
He is the force. He is the force that keeps SpongeBob and Patrick somewhat in check. Even though he loses his mind, but he is integral to prevent the apocalypse. You could make that episode.
All right.
Issues of local policy and zoning that many remain largely unaware of, and with racism and distrust spreading throughout society.
So his sources is that like that image from the 50s or 60s, and that one thing on the fire hydrant that somebody posted. Like, it's so widespread. There's only one image of it.
Yeah, he's always using the same, and then now he's not even showing us what those numbers mean because he skips the headline of it. He just shows us Republicans, this really big thing, and he talks about racism, so it must be the Republicans' fault. This is disingenuous. You said in his own channel description, it's all fun and satire and just scatterbrained nonsense, and this is indistinguishable from any other socialist video essay propaganda bullshit.
I think
it's exactly the same shit, and it's all in earnest.
Once they started making about a quarter to half their video about a Vox stat poll or something, like, oh boy, this is not going to go.
And then he brought up an image of like a book where he just had one quote about it, and I said like, if you want to see like more about this, then read the book. Thank you.
From the 1940s to the 1960s. Thanks. It's great.
Okay, this is laughable, but not funny.
I know, we're almost done, but
I don't even know like if it's worth it to reply to the person in the comment section that like, hey, like, can you just like use some other sources for this?
Can you use your
can you back it up with people? Like this is the kind of like point where the topic is serious enough that like you would like go out like even online and like ask people who live in these places and like is life really like this, or is this article like painting you in like a very bad way, or false narratives? No, like I'm just gonna read the Vox article and base everything around that.
All right, almost done.
once more. With the new white flight away from diversity and towards exurbs and NIMBYism, I think we need a few more Squidwards. People who recognise these systems of discrimination and the flaws within them, and work against both their own preconceived notions and the exclusionary attitudes of their peers for a betterment of their society achieved through tolerance instead of segregation and
Yeah, tell that to the black supremacists. Tell that to the Islamists. Tell that to the Han Chinese. No, you won't.
Tell that to anyone who wants really good real estate to appreciate in value in the next 30 to 40 years. There's reasons why we have communities and gated communities and investments in real estate. There's even Dave Chappelle, I remember a few months ago, he mentioned that someone wanted to build affordable housing for some sort of low-income people. He's like, no, that's not what I signed up for. I don't want that in my neighborhood. So, this is very common for people putting millions of dollars down for a place not necessarily to live in, but if you're owning a house, you typically want to live there unless you have lots of money that can afford more than one place. You want your place to be of high value as much as possible, which means taking things out or not allowing other things to come in. That's how it works. There's all these arguments, like the libertarian argument would be like, well, let's say your neighbor builds doesn't take care of his lawn. So you would have to go over to your neighbor and say, hey, I will cut your lawn for you. Can I do that for you, sir? Yes. And then you would be the lawnsman on his property because he doesn't care. That's a very simple example, but it's the same idea of not imposing your will onto your neighbor to do the same outcome, which is property value. So this is not even looking at it from an economic view of who would live there and why. First off, can you afford to live there? And will the lands go up in value as time goes on? That's it. That's all property value is. That's all owning a thing is, unless it's part like having a family, raising a family with property you own that you can pass on to your children. That is the ultimate idea outside of selling or renting a lot. So he didn't even go into that. He's just talking about who buys what or who goes where because they don't like certain races. I don't see how this is a relevant conversation to the issue of real estate.
Yeah, but the thing is, he even showed the graphics. They all do it.
Yeah, they all want it. Everyone has a preference.
Different
exactly.
percentages, but they all do it. And why people take this stuff so badly is that it seems like everyone's allowed to have their own spaces and pockets, but the dreaded white people, and that is what makes that artificially created group of white people eventually get pissy. Because everybody on the planet is allowed to have his or her own place. Every people has that, and even their own ethnostates even, because we must respect their culture. But the so-called white people. So where do they go? And that's why it comes across like it's just one-sided and it's just hostile and it's just racism against another group. And the only stupid thing about this is that there are a lot of white people that buy into it, not just the black supremacists that use it to advance their agenda to get more stuff.
All right, here is Porcelinus IV. Thank you. Squidward doesn't leave because of discrimination. He leaves because everyone is uptight and the whole place became boring to him. He realizes having SpongeBob and Patrick in his life keeps his life interesting. Yep.
Yes. That's the point of the episode. Like, he is like falsely claiming that no, it's like because of racism. Like, no. Squidward didn't give a crap about that. And like there is a line that like your kind isn't welcome here. It doesn't mean that they don't want SpongeBob, Sponge, and the Star in their society. They just don't want the kind of people that cause problems.
Yeah,
it's not about the race.
Yeah, that and you should easily get that, and I think kids get that. Because Squidward is a squid, just like the other squids. It's his behavior that's the problem. Not that he's not a squid, because he is a squid.
Everyone looking exactly like Squidward was like a very stylistic choice. That like, hey, look, like let's get this point straight. Like, so like you can see like what is this about? If
So
like all of them were
that's
looking different, then that would be like harder for like the kind of children that this episode was written for. That like to understand like what's the point is. Like everyone looks the same. Everyone is doing the exact same things as Squidward. Like if you look like what white people are doing, like every neighbor is going to like act differently, and like they are not going to do their own standard things to like make themselves happy. I really don't know like where this guy is coming from. Like, the UK, I know, but like other than that, it's just like it's a fucking fantasy.
What you can also say is that Squidward, he didn't make a friend in that town.
No,
He was
nobody.
in the end, he was alone in a crowd, and that is way more dreadful than to live in that little Bikini Bottom place with all these weirdos. Alone in a crowd, that is also a form of boredom, but I think an even more dreadful one than being alone in what's the word? Than being lonely alone. He's lonely in a crowd. That's what I meant to say.
Well, we have less than 2 minutes. We can keep going or just stop here. I don't really care either way.
Hey, we can finish this up. He'll probably give us some Skillshare stuff.
Oh, wonderful.
Forced homogeneity. As I'm finishing the writing of this script, I've just received a comment on an older video, which said something along the lines of, "Wow, I see why you're called Pillar of Garbage. You're just making up theories out of thin air, and who even cares about any of this?" I can't quote it verbatim or show it on screen because the user edited their comment shortly thereafter, and all I've been able to think about since then is, wow, if someone reacted that way to that video, I sure hope they don't watch this one. Their brain would likely implode with the perceived
Why do you always
pointlessness
keep it
of
so
this
slow on the
topic.
screen?
But I hope some of you enjoyed finding out about the
short on
ways
the
the
screen.
Squidward ethnostate resembles, and maybe even comments on the deeply tainted history of American suburbia. And as with every slightly out there video I make, even though the tone is firmly tongue-in-cheek, I wouldn't have put all this time into writing, recording, and producing a video.
No, what you said, that was not tongue-in-cheek. None of what you said was tongue-in-cheek. You spoke as earnest. And even like now, there's a hint of anger in it. All the time. There was no joke, there was no tongue-in-cheek. Just because you say in the beginning it's tongue-in-cheek doesn't make it. You just want a preemptive excuse of, oh, it's all just a joke in case your bullshit gets called out.
Near guaranteed to underperform on a statistical level if I didn't ultimately think there was something worth talking about.
What was that, like 3 frames?
But yes, like politics and other like buzzwords sell. Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah,
Put something on the screen for like a split second. You disingenuous asshole. That's not funny.
That
that's not
only
satire, that's
appears
just
for a
bad.
few seconds, but like his Vox article statistics have appeared like 5 times at least in the video. Like
Yeah,
I was getting so bored that like every single time I see that like 55% of all Americans.
Yeah,
we can stop
the
here.
same statistics, but it's just
Let's go to memes.
It's just a few seconds. Oh,
Let's see what we got here.
it's also good finishing frame. maybe.
Matthias, Pillar of Garbage, reach, yeah. That's pretty good. That should be our thumbnail for this video. Just reach. The HOA president, after driving by my house and seeing I've converted my entire lawn into a cornfield.
Oh,
I make my own fuel. Well,
you know, like it was the opposite of like my folks had bought land, and supposedly it was meant to grow a sweet potato, and then like 20 years later, because like those people haven't checked on the land in like a long time, they were saying like, hey, like, you're not doing what you were supposed to do. Here, have like $500,000 in taxes.
so here's a interesting meme. I'm not sure in which direction to read it, but apparently the homeowners association wants you to mow your lawn. Okay. Some people care about that. Some people don't.
And the guy on the right is frantically defending his home.
Is
It's like a
this
Fed raid or something.
a farm?
I am always confused by this meme.
The dairy
No,
cows.
he's just in a box.
The dairy cows. Is this an
Very-
ethnostate?
It's very badly drawn.
It's farmland. I don't know if you want to
Ooh.
call it an ethnostate or not.
Yeah, but it's all the same species, and it's fenced, so it's even a gated community.
Oh god. Its liquid surrounds us. It binds us. Jack Daniels.
Because you said like whiskey binds us, so
Well, I think
Yes.
so. Yeah. It's people who don't drink whiskey we can't help, but we could teach. How to campaign like Trudeau. Oh my god. Fire another woman. Fire anyone. He's fired more than women. Compare Scheer to
Yeah, but he's
Ford.
feminist.
Blame Ford. Yeah, blame Ontario for federal politics. That's great. Take selfie. There you go. That's the solution to everything. Take a selfie. That is what he does. Goes to Europe so he could have 12 or 24 photo opportunities. I don't think he actually did anything when he was in Europe. He just talked to people. I was like, that's great. Like, why did you go there? What did you accomplish?
he was bored. He needed a vacation.
I don't know why.
Like, he has like so much on his shoulders.
He just took photos with a bunch. He met the Queen, which is you should be doing anyway. That's kind of our representation to go to the Queen every year and say hello and how's it going and all formality, but still you should be doing that. But to go everywhere else, it's like, why are you going to the rest of Europe? There's no reason. We don't have any trade agreements specifically. I don't know. Select your fighter. That's it, dude. He has like 30 or 60 or different.
He can fill an entire fighting game.
Yeah, he's like.
This is like the beginning of the game, like when you haven't unlocked all the characters.
haven't unlocked
I fucking hate his smile, like especially with the eyes on the lower left one. Like he's so high on himself, playing this role because this is all he does. He's playing a role. He loves the costumes because he's playing the role and then feels like I am so awesome. And it's like I am so devout. Like, oh, they must all love me how I am like them.
Well,
Like,
that
on the one side he wears a kippah, so he's some Jewish thing, and on the other side he lets in the Islamists into the country and gives one of the 9/11 guys. No, it was one of the maybe it was, but for one of the Guantanamo guys like $10 million in reparations.
oh well.
Like that fucking guy is an insane asshole.
Yeah, he puts the Canadian taxpayer on his vacations, which is wonderful. Oh, more. There's more. Shapeshifters. Keep an eye on them. Yeah.
Yes, Trudeau's a shapeshifter. I am a Wisp.
The article undermines itself. What article is that? The primary reason white respondents said they'd be uncomfortable in their least desired neighborhood was poor neighborhood quality, especially crime. A close second was cultural differences and concerns. One white respondent told the researchers if this were the neighborhood makeup, you could almost be certain that it would be lower income, higher crime, worse school, not because of inherent characteristics of these people, but because of these backgrounds have a lower socioeconomic status and opportunity for education. So the people who voted were using other statistics for their reasoning. Okay. Also, I'm just not used to it would be the culture shock, just like moving into any new culture. It is difficult in general to see people that don't look like them. Yeah, that's fair. That's pretty good, actually. It's very practical answers. This is where recent minority suburbanization differs from black suburbanization of past generations. When Chow Kwan Yun studied California's San Gabriel Valley, where Asian Americans became a large part of the population, he said he could find few overt conflicts. Really? Rather, it was passive reaction. When white families moved out, they were more often replaced by Asian households, which is in line with what much of the research tells us about other similar suburbs.
Oh, that's in the article itself that he cited. It was all of the white people are bad. Oh, great.
So the people who were white sold their houses and Asians bought them.
But it's only the white people that are the problem.
I'm not seeing, even if it was the other way
That's
around.
the joke. He's just a disingenuous propagandist.
Even if it was Asians selling to white people, it would make no difference. It's just people sold their houses. They happened to be of this background, and these people moved in. Whoop-de-doo.
No, it breaks his argument. That's what it's. That's
Well,
what
he didn't explain the goddamn thing. He just shows, here's the numbers. You're like, what do the numbers mean? I don't know. Do you know what they mean?
Yeah, but he also only focused on a specific part of the numbers. This is relevant stuff that he leaves out, because what it shows is what we mentioned before, is a general thing that happens across all populations across the planet.
All right, so
it's not a white thing.
We're looking at the Hispanic least desired is more black than white least desired one. Plus, it seems weird the black most least desired ones barely differ. Okay. So there's white, there's black, and Latino. Most and least desired neighborhoods demographic on average by race.
Even the blacks don't have African Americans as 27% not desired. That's the second biggest bar.
Latino.
The blacks don't like the blacks.
Gee, I wonder why. I don't know. Maybe it's the same reasoning from before, that it's all based off the assumed or predicted behavior of those people because of their socioeconomic status, not because they're bad people. Gran Marina Villas, Mexico. Here's the place he used as an image of a gated community, a Mexican resort town. Yeah, that's a nice pool. Holy crap!
It looks like a hotel.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind living there.
The gated community is a hotel.
I'd go for a ride on my moped and go shopping and park it.
Damn.
Park it outside my veranda.
That pool is amazing.
Yeah, I just wake up and go for a swim. That'd be awesome.
I must admit, the Hispanics know how to do gated communities.
Yes, yeah, I want to hire me a Hispanic designer.
Designer. Okay.
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with building a castle.
With a pool, with a moat, you could swim in.
Oh yeah, a moat. Yeah, and the great thing about castles is they tend to last. They can last centuries.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway,
that's why Nicolas Cage has so much of those.
He has a castle or an island.
Yeah, that's why he makes movies. Like, he needs to pay off
the castle he built on his island.
Yeah, not just the island, but like all the other crap that he has been buying all these years. He needs the money from the acting jobs that he has been taking.
Maybe you should go into real estate.
A friend of mine, his father owned 4 castles, but they were all then expropriated by the Nazis.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
And of course, never compensated.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, and then after the war was, well, they're all in Poland now, so you won't get anything back. Haha.
Anyway, that was... I kind of wish we did a Renegade Cut video. This was kind of bad. Jeez.
Can we go back in time?
Can we go back? Hey guys, let's go watch that Star Trek Generations video from Renegade Cut.
No.
Next month.
Yeah, maybe.
Next month.
Anyway, thank you guys. That was a really strange. I'm not sure what to make of this video. I was just sitting there going, like, what is he trying to say? Is this happened back in the 40s? Okay, sure.
I'm just pissed that there was not a single humorous thing in it when his channel description promises humorous things.
I don't know.
It's not even an attempt at it.
I mean, the original episode itself was funny.
Yes.
I guess.
He shouldn't take credit for that.
Well,
Yes.
it was a reach by on all means of definition to try to put in a children's show and talk about the zoning laws of the 1940s in America.
I mean, like, he is right to his name, like a pillar of garbage.
Yes, this is the
Yes.
sad thing. We can't. It's like, yeah, we just watched a Pillar of Garbage video. What were you expecting? It's like, yeah, it's kind of goes without saying. It's what it was. If there is an actual video worth watching, we'll do it again. But other than that, I don't want to watch this guy again. He's kind of pointless. So
Yeah. And too disingenuous. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, what the hell?
all right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great
Fucking
evening.
deal.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.